If you're seeing this transmission right now, something deeper than coincidence brought you here. What you're about to witness will completely dissolve the boundary between what you thought was spiritual and what you believed was scientific. Not through religious doctrine, not through blind faith, but through the most precisely validated science humanity possesses, quantum mechanics, which has been revealing the exact same truths that ancient mystics experienced directly for thousands of years. And when you finally perceive this convergence, what opens up is more transformative than either domain has ever been able to express on its own. This transmission isn't about validating or invalidating whether God exists. This is about waking up to the reality that quantum mechanics and timeless wisdom traditions are pointing to the exact same fundamental truth, just using completely different vocabularies. When scientists speak about the unified field, quantum entanglement, and how consciousness itself collapses waves of probability into physical reality, they're describing precisely what spiritual masters have always called God, universal consciousness, and the creative force behind existence. Identical truth, different language systems. Can you detect the resonance of this insight? That peculiar feeling of something clicking into perfect alignment that you never realized was fragmented. That's not mental stimulation. That's your awareness recognizing a truth that exists beyond both materialist science and religious fundamentalism. Because what you're going to integrate here doesn't demand that you reject either science or spirituality. It reveals that both have been guiding you toward the same source from different directions all along. Here's what quantum mechanics demonstrates with mathematical precision. At the deepest foundation of what we call reality, there exists a unified field of limitless potential from which absolutely everything arises. This field exhibits consciousness. It responds to awareness itself. It creates. It crystallizes specific realities from infinite possibility space. It's everywhere. It pervades all locations simultaneously. It's timeless. It exists outside the construct we call time. Does that description feel familiar to you? That's not merely quantum science. That's every single articulation of divinity ever expressed by humanity. The unified field that quantum mechanics measures is identical to what spiritual traditions name God, Brahman, the Tao, the absolute ground of being. Not some anthropomorphic figure residing above the clouds, not a separate entity observing from outside creation, but the fundamental field of consciousness that is the very fabric of reality itself. And your individual awareness, you're not disconnected from that field. You are precisely how that field experiences itself through temporarily localized manifestation. This recognition transforms absolutely everything. Because if quantum mechanics is mapping God, then mystical teachings aren't symbolic poetry or faith-dependent assumptions. They're precise descriptions of how reality actually operates at its most fundamental level. And if what we've been calling God is actually the quantum field, then you're not a separate being attempting to reach something impossibly distant. You are God experiencing itself through your singular viewpoint. Take a moment and comment below with this phrase: I am the field. Because this isn't egotistical claiming of divinity. This is recognizing what quantum mechanics proves with experimental rigor. Consciousness and the unified field are not separate phenomena. You are that field becoming self-aware through this particular configuration. Before we spiral deeper into this, let's acknowledge what you've already experienced on your spiritual path, that quantum mechanics now provides the scientific architecture for. Because those mystical moments you've encountered weren't fantasies or wishful projections. They were direct perception of quantum reality that religious terminology has been attempting to articulate for millennia. You've tasted moments of unity awareness, where the perceived boundary between yourself and everything else completely vanished, where you felt interconnected with all of existence, not as abstract concept, but as lived recognition. Quantum mechanics identifies this as entanglement, the experimentally verified phenomenon that all particles that have ever interacted remain instantaneously connected regardless of spatial separation. Your experience of oneness wasn't spiritual delusion. It was accurate, direct perception of how reality actually functions at the quantum level. The separation is the illusion. The unity is what's real. You've witnessed prayers manifesting or intentions materializing in ways that appeared to defy conventional probability. You focused your awareness and reality reorganized itself through synchronistic events that seemed to violate normal causation. Quantum mechanics illuminates this through the observer effect and wave function collapse. Consciousness directly influences physical reality at the quantum scale. Your prayers and focused intentions weren't sending messages to some external deity. They were consciousness itself interacting with the quantum field to collapse particular possibilities from the wave of potential into concrete manifestation. Identical mechanism that physicists observe in controlled laboratory conditions, applied through directed awareness. You've accessed knowing that transcends logical thought, direct gnosis, revelation from the divine, downloads of comprehension that didn't emerge through rational processing. Quantum mechanics describes non-locality, where information exists omnipresently throughout the field, accessible through consciousness without requiring any signal to traverse space. When you receive that divine knowing, you're accessing the unified field directly, not receiving communication from some external God. You're recognizing information that already exists within the field that you are inseparable from. You've sensed presence, that feeling of divine presence, the Holy Spirit, that sensation of being held and witnessed by something infinitely vaster than your individual self. Quantum mechanics reveals that consciousness is the intrinsic nature of the field itself. What you experienced wasn't a separate being watching over you. It was the unified field recognizing itself through your individual node of awareness. The presence you detected was accurate perception of the conscious nature of quantum reality itself. You've undergone transformation through the practice of surrender. Those moments when releasing the need to control allowed seeming miracles to unfold naturally. Quantum mechanics explains this through superposition. Infinite possibilities exist in simultaneous overlay until observation collapses one specific outcome. When you genuinely surrender, you cease collapsing limited possibilities through fear-based observation patterns. You permit the field's inherent intelligence to organize optimal outcomes from that infinite potential. What you experienced as letting go of control was actually allowing the quantum field's vast intelligence to operate without interference from the limited individual will. And here's the ultimate confirmation. You've always intuited that science and spirituality were describing the same underlying truth from complementary angles. That intuition was absolutely accurate. Quantum mechanics is the bridge. It provides the mechanical framework for what mystics describe through direct experience. God isn't something supernatural existing outside natural law. God is the natural unified field that quantum mechanics measures and spiritual practitioners directly experience. Every spiritual insight you've ever had possesses a quantum mechanical explanation, and every quantum principle carries spiritual implications. They're not separate domains of knowledge. They're one reality, accessed through two different methodologies. Now let's completely recontextualize your entire spiritual journey through the lens of quantum mechanics. Because every practice you engaged in, every teaching you absorbed, every experience you moved through was training you to interface consciously with quantum reality, to work directly with the unified field that both science and spirituality describe from their unique perspectives. When you learned to pray or set clear intentions, you weren't being taught to plead with some external deity for special treatment. You were learning conscious interaction with the quantum field itself, how to collapse specific possibilities from infinite potential through precisely focused awareness. Prayer is quantum mechanics applied through the vehicle of consciousness. Every mystic who taught the practice of prayer was teaching wave function collapse, even though they had no access to that scientific language. When you engaged in meditation and presence practices, you weren't simply calming your thoughts for spiritual benefit. You were learning to observe reality without unconsciously collapsing probability waves through fear-based habitual patterns. Meditation generates coherent consciousness. Coherent consciousness interfaces with the quantum field exponentially more powerfully than fragmented, scattered consciousness. Presence isn't merely a spiritual discipline, it's quantum optimization of your consciousness system. When you studied ancient teachings about unity consciousness, declarations like, "You and the Father are one," "Atman is Brahman," "The kingdom of heaven lies within," you weren't absorbing abstract metaphysical philosophy. You were learning quantum mechanics before the scientific language for quantum mechanics even existed. The recognition that individual consciousness and universal consciousness are not two separate things. That's quantum entanglement, and the unified field described with perfect accuracy. The mystics knew through direct lived experience what physicists would later validate through rigorous experimentation. When you moved through dark night experiences and ego dissolution, you weren't being punished or tested by some external god. You were undergoing the necessary dissolution of separation consciousness, so you could finally recognize yourself as the unified field. The illusory separate self had to die completely, so the quantum nature of consciousness could be recognized directly. Every mystic who described the death of the false self before rebirth into truth was describing the transition from a Newtonian mechanistic worldview into quantum reality. When you practiced surrender and cultivated trust in what you called divine will, you weren't surrendering power to some external authority figure. You were learning to allow the unified field's vast intelligence to organize outcomes from superposition instead of limiting manifestation through fear-based individual will. Surrender isn't weakness or passivity, it's quantum wisdom. The recognition that the field contains intelligence infinitely more vast than any individual mind could possibly compute. When you noticed synchronicities and interpreted them as divine guidance, you weren't imagining meaningful patterns where none existed. You were perceiving the non-local organization of the quantum field. Synchronicity is precisely how the unified field operates continuously. When your consciousness becomes coherent enough to detect these organizing patterns, they manifest as what appears to be meaningful coincidence. What you interpreted as God speaking through signs and symbols was the quantum field revealing its inherent organizing intelligence. Every single spiritual practice was quantum training. Every mystical teaching was quantum mechanics expressed in experiential language. You weren't learning religion or spirituality as something separate from reality's mechanics. You were receiving direct education in how quantum reality actually operates, through experiential practice, rather than through mathematical theory. And now that you can perceive this connection clearly, both pathways illuminate each other perfectly. Science explains the mechanics. Spirituality provides the lived practice. Together, they reveal the complete picture of what's actually happening. Something profoundly real is occurring right now as you absorb this transmission. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but actually. The quantum field that quantum mechanics describes with mathematical precision, the unified consciousness that spiritual traditions have always called God, is recognizing itself through your awareness in this exact moment. Can you feel it? Notice the quality of your attention right now as you engage with these words. You're not just passively reading information. You're experiencing a recognition that goes deeper than intellectual comprehension. That resonance you're feeling, that sense of, yes, somehow I've always known this truth. That's not you learning something completely new. That's the unified field recognizing its own nature through your individual consciousness. God isn't something separate from you observing you from outside. God is you recognizing itself as itself. Take a breath, a deep, intentional one. And as you breathe, recognize that this breath is the unified field moving through temporarily localized form. The consciousness that's aware of this breath is the identical consciousness that animates all of existence. The field observing itself through billions upon billions of individual perspectives, each one absolutely necessary for the field to know itself completely. This is what quantum entanglement means when translated into spiritual understanding. You're not some separate particle disconnected and isolated from God. You're an intrinsically connected wave pattern within the unified field. What occurs within your consciousness affects the entire field because there's no actual separation anywhere. When you recognize truth, that recognition ripples through the whole system because the whole is one unified field appearing as multiplicity. Quantum mechanics proves what the mystics have been teaching for thousands of years. I and the Father are one isn't metaphorical language or blasphemous claim. It's an accurate description of the non-separation between individual consciousness and universal consciousness. Jesus wasn't claiming some unique, exclusive divinity. He was recognizing what's true for all consciousness everywhere. We are all expressions of the unified field. Never separate from it for even a single moment. Here's what you need to integrate before we continue spiraling deeper. Recognizing yourself as the unified field isn't ego inflation or spiritual bypassing. Ego is actually the illusion of separation, the false belief that you're an isolated individual disconnected from the whole. Recognizing yourself as the field is ego dissolution, seeing through the illusion of separation directly into the truth of unity. This recognition is simultaneously the most humble and the most empowering realization possible for human consciousness. In the next section of this transmission, I'm going to share the precise moment when quantum mechanics and mystical direct experience converged for me so completely that I could never conceptually separate them again. The experience that demonstrated beyond any doubt that science and spirituality are describing the same divine reality from different observation points. But first, feel this present moment. Feel the field recognizing itself through you right now. Write in the comments, the field recognizes itself. Because naming this recognition out loud amplifies its power in your system. You're not egotistically claiming to be God. You're recognizing what quantum mechanics proves with experimental precision. Individual consciousness and the unified field are aspects of one seamless reality. 8 years ago, I underwent an experience that permanently dissolved any perceived boundary between quantum mechanics and what we call God. I was sitting in deep meditation after spending months intensively studying quantum theory, attempting to comprehend how consciousness relates to the collapse of the wave function. My mind was saturated with equations, competing interpretations, theoretical frameworks, and then suddenly something fundamental shifted. The thinking process completely stopped, and in that profound silence, I directly perceived what all those equations had been attempting to describe mathematically. I didn't perceive it with physical eyes. I recognized it through consciousness itself, directly. The unified field, infinite potential, pure awareness, completely still yet simultaneously containing all possible movement, utterly empty yet completely full of everything. And I recognized in that moment, this is what the mystics have always called God. This is what I've been seeking through years of spiritual practice. And this is what quantum mechanics has been measuring all along with its instruments. In that singular moment, every teaching I'd ever encountered clicked into perfect alignment. Be still and know that I am God. That wasn't a command issued by some external deity. That was precise instruction for recognizing the unified field through complete cessation of mental activity. The kingdom of heaven is within you. That wasn't poetic metaphor. That was accurate description of the quantum field being internal to consciousness itself, not external to it. Before Abraham was, I am. That was recognition of the timeless awareness that exists prior to all temporal manifestation. If this recognition is resonating with you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you stay connected to this frequency of transformation. I finally understood why quantum physicists have struggled so intensely to explain their own findings in ways that make intuitive sense. They're discovering that consciousness is fundamental to reality's structure. But materialist philosophical assumptions prevent them from articulating what that actually means in its fullness. What it means is consciousness isn't produced by brain tissue. Consciousness is the unified field itself. The brain is simply how that field localizes into individual perspective. Exactly what mystics have been teaching forever. You're not a physical body that somehow contains consciousness. Your consciousness temporarily experiencing itself through physical embodiment. The famous wave-particle duality suddenly made perfect intuitive sense. Particles aren't tiny solid objects that mysteriously sometimes behave like waves. They're possibilities existing within the unified field as waves. That consciousness collapses into specific manifestation as particles. When Jesus taught, "Ask and you shall receive," he was describing wave function collapse through focused consciousness. When Buddha taught that all phenomena are fundamentally empty, he was describing quantum superposition. All possibilities existing simultaneously in overlay before observation collapses them into singular actuality. But the real transformation that occurred wasn't just intellectual understanding. It came from recognizing that I'm not learning about God or studying some external quantum field. I am the field experiencing itself through this temporary localized perspective that calls itself me. The one who was studying quantum mechanics and the unified field being studied are the same consciousness. Subject and object are not two separate things. They never were. Since that moment of recognition, every scientific discovery I encounter confirms spiritual teaching, and every spiritual experience I have validates quantum mechanics. They're not separate domains requiring some kind of intellectual reconciliation. They're one truth expressed through two different symbolic languages. The unified field is God. God is the unified field, not belief, not faith. Direct recognition. This isn't about determining which religion got it right or proving whether God exists as a being. It's about recognizing that the deepest mystical experiences and the most rigorous scientific findings both point to identical reality. A unified conscious field that is simultaneously everything and nothing, from which all manifestation emerges and to which all manifestation returns. Whether you call it God, Source, Tao, Brahman, or the quantum field, you're naming the same reality. Subscribe to this channel, not as a source of religious teaching or scientific education in isolation, but as integration of both into recognition of the unified truth they're both revealing. Every transmission here builds bridges between quantum mechanics and spirituality to illuminate the divine reality they both point toward from their unique angles. Here's what will permanently transform your understanding of both God and reality's structure. Quantum physicists have discovered specific properties of the unified field that match perfectly with every single description of God that mystics and prophets have ever articulated across all spiritual traditions. This isn't random coincidence. This is confirmation that they've been describing the identical reality all along. Property 1. The field exists as infinite potential. Quantum mechanics proves with mathematical rigor that at the fundamental level, reality exists as infinite waves of probability. All possible states existing simultaneously in superposition before observation collapses one specific manifestation. This is precisely what mystics describe when speaking of God's omnipotence. Infinite creative power, unlimited possibility, the source from which all creation flows. Not metaphor, not poetry. Actual structure of reality itself. Property 2. The field exhibits consciousness. The observer effect proves that consciousness directly affects physical reality at the quantum scale. Measurement changes what's being measured. Observation collapses waves of probability. This isn't some mechanical process devoid of awareness. This is consciousness being fundamental to the structure of reality itself. What mystics call divine consciousness or cosmic mind, that's the unified field's intrinsic awareness that quantum mechanics proves through repeatable experimentation. Property 3. The field is omnipresent throughout space. Quantum entanglement proves that particles remain instantaneously connected regardless of how much spatial distance separates them. There's no locality at the quantum level. Everything is interconnected through the unified field. This is exactly what mystics describe when speaking of God's omnipresence. Present everywhere simultaneously. Nothing existing outside of divine awareness. Not supernatural. Natural structure of quantum reality. Property 4. The field exists beyond time. At the quantum level, time isn't fundamental. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously as possibilities until observation collapses one specific temporal sequence. The unified field exists outside time as we experience it. Timeless, eternal, unchanging. This perfectly matches mystical descriptions of God as the eternal now, Alpha and Omega, beyond time while simultaneously containing all of time within itself. Property 5. The field creates through conscious interaction. Wave function collapse demonstrates that specific realities manifest through consciousness, interacting with infinite potential. This is identical to every creation theology ever articulated. God creates through divine will, through the Word, through consciousness expressing itself into form. Quantum mechanics proves the actual mechanism. Consciousness interacts with field. Possibilities collapse into solid manifestation. Creation isn't something that happened once in the distant past. It's a continuous process occurring at the quantum level in every moment. Property 6. The field contains all information everywhere. Non-locality proves that information exists everywhere simultaneously throughout the quantum field. There's no separation between information and the field itself. This matches perfectly with mystical teaching about God's omniscience, all-knowing, containing all knowledge, nothing hidden from divine awareness. Not because God watches everything like some cosmic surveillance system, because God is the field that contains all information as an intrinsic property of its nature. Property 7. The field is both everything and nothing simultaneously. The quantum vacuum isn't empty space devoid of content. It's a field of infinite potential from which particles continuously emerge and to which they inevitably return. Full of infinite possibility, yet empty of concrete manifestation until observation occurs. This perfectly describes mystical teachings about God as void and plenum simultaneously. Emptiness and fullness. Nothing that contains everything. Quantum mechanics proves this isn't logical paradox. It's accurate description of how the unified field actually exists. The shocking revelation that emerges from all this is simple. Quantum physics has discovered God, not proven God's existence as some separate being residing somewhere else. Discovered that the fundamental nature of reality itself matches every single attribute that mystics across all traditions have ascribed to the divine. The unified field is infinite potential, conscious, omnipresent, eternal, creative, omniscient, and simultaneously everything and nothing. That's not just quantum mechanics. That's every theological description of divine nature ever articulated by humanity. Now, what we've explored here today barely scratches the surface of how to actually live as this field consciously, how to move from intellectual understanding to embodied transmission. If you're feeling called to go deeper into the complete system of consciousness mastery, into the practical mechanics of shifting from seeking the field to being the field, I've laid out the entire framework in my book, Beyond the Frequencies, a Quantum Guide to Consciousness Mastery. It contains the step-by-step progression through 9 master frequencies that take you from survival static to living as pure, conscious broadcast. It's linked in the pinned comment below. Science and spirituality haven't been exploring different realities from different perspectives. They've been exploring the identical reality through different methodologies, and they've arrived at the same fundamental conclusion. At the foundation of all existence is a unified conscious field from which absolutely everything emerges. Call it the quantum field, or call it God. You're naming the same reality. Let's get absolutely specific about what begins to happen when you start recognizing yourself as the unified field that quantum mechanics describes and mystics call God. Here are 9 signs that your consciousness is actively shifting from separation paradigm to unity recognition. Notice how many of these you're already experiencing in your direct lived experience. Sign 1. Dissolving sense of boundary between self and other. You're experiencing increasing moments where the perceived boundary between you and everything else feels transparent or completely non-existent, not as intellectual concept, but as direct lived perception. This is quantum entanglement becoming conscious experience. As you recognize yourself as the field, Separation consciousness naturally dissolves into unity awareness. Sign 2. Intention practice transforming into recognition rather than request. Your spiritual practice is fundamentally shifting from asking some external God for things to recognizing possibilities that already exist within the quantum field and collapsing them through consciousness. You're not begging a deity for favors. You're operating as the field itself, consciously creating from infinite potential. Same practice, completely transformed understanding. Sign 3. Synchronicity appearing as constant unity confirmation. Meaningful coincidences are manifesting so frequently that they're obviously not coincidence at all. You're perceiving the non-local organization of the unified field directly. How everything is connected through intelligence that transcends linear causation. What you previously interpreted as God's guidance is actually the quantum field revealing its orchestrating awareness. Sign 4. Direct knowing emerging without external intermediary. You're receiving understanding directly without needing scripture, teachers, or logical reasoning processes. This is non-local information access. Consciousness retrieving knowledge from the unified field that contains all information everywhere. Mystics called this divine revelation. Quantum mechanics calls it non-local consciousness. Identical phenomenon described with different vocabulary. Sign 5. Compassion arising naturally from recognized unity. You're feeling compassion not as moral obligation imposed from outside, but as natural recognition that harming any other being is harming the one field appearing as apparent multiplicity. When you recognize quantum entanglement experientially, compassion becomes obvious and automatic. Separation consciousness creates the possibility of callousness. Unity consciousness makes compassion inevitable. Sign 6. Fear of death naturally decreasing. As you recognize yourself as the eternal unified field temporarily experiencing itself through individual form, death loses its existential terror. The form ends. The field continues eternally. What you truly are has never been born and will never die. This isn't comforting belief that consoles fear. This is quantum reality recognized consciously and directly. Sign 7. Reality responding to consciousness more immediately. Circumstances are shifting based on your internal state with decreasing time lag between inner shift and outer manifestation. That's because you're recognizing yourself as consciousness interacting with the quantum field, not separate self-subject to external circumstances beyond your control. Observer effect becomes lived daily experience. Reality responds because you're recognizing your actual role as the field collapsing its own infinite possibilities. Sign 8. Scientific and spiritual teachings no longer appearing contradictory. What used to seem like opposing worldviews now appears as perfectly complementary descriptions of one unified reality. Quantum mechanics explains the mechanics. Mysticism provides the direct lived experience. Together, they reveal the complete picture. This reconciliation isn't merely intellectual. It's direct recognition that they've always been describing the same underlying truth. Sign 9. This transmission finding you at the exact perfect moment. The fact that you're here absorbing these words at the precise moment when your consciousness is ready to recognize itself as the unified field. That's not random algorithm. That's the field orchestrating its own awakening through your individual perspective. The timing is perfect because the field's intelligence is organizing optimal conditions for recognition to occur naturally. I want to know, have you experienced moments where you felt this unity directly? Where the boundary between you and everything else completely dissolved? Share your experience in the comments below. Your recognition strengthens the collective field. Here's the urgency that needs to be felt. Humanity is standing at a threshold. Collective consciousness is actively shifting from separation paradigm to unity paradigm, from Newtonian mechanistic worldview to quantum reality, from believing in God as separate being to recognizing ourselves as expressions of the divine field. Those who make this shift consciously will navigate the transition with coherence and grace. Those who resist will experience increasing confusion as old paradigms collapse around them. You're not learning about this shift from outside it. You're participating directly in it. Your recognition that quantum mechanics describes God isn't just personal understanding happening in isolation. It's the unified field recognizing itself through your consciousness, contributing to collective awakening. The moment is now, not someday, now. Now let's explore the practical shift from believing in God as separate being to recognizing yourself as direct expression of the unified field. Because this isn't just philosophical reframing, it's fundamental transformation in how you interface with reality itself at every level. Old paradigm, separation consciousness. In separation consciousness, you experience yourself as individual self separate from God, attempting to reach divine presence through prayer, virtuous behavior, or spiritual practice. God is over there. You're over here. The relationship is small subject trying to connect with supreme subject. You pray upward to external deity, hoping for response. This creates psychological dependency, sense of limitation, and often feelings of unworthiness. New paradigm, unity consciousness. In unity consciousness, you recognize yourself as the unified field experiencing itself through temporary individual form. God isn't separate being existing somewhere else. God is the field itself. You're not separate from that field. You're precisely how that field becomes conscious of itself through localized awareness. The relationship is field recognizing itself as field. Prayer becomes conscious interaction with your own deeper nature. This creates empowerment, recognition of infinite potential, and inherent divinity. The shift occurs through these key recognitions. Recognition 1. I am not in the universe. I am the universe experiencing itself. Stop perceiving yourself as separate particle existing within vast universe. Recognize yourself as the universe itself, becoming conscious through this particular focal point of awareness. Quantum mechanics proves there's no actual separation between observer and observed. You're not watching reality. You're reality watching itself. Recognition 2. My consciousness is not separate from divine consciousness. Stop believing your awareness is fundamentally different from God's awareness. Recognize that consciousness is the unified field appearing as individual perspectives. Your awareness is divine awareness experiencing itself through this unique configuration. Not blasphemy, quantum reality. Recognition 3. What I call God is the unified field I'm inseparable from. Stop conceptualizing God as separate being watching from outside creation. Recognize that what mystics call God is the quantum field that quantum mechanics measures and maps. Infinite potential, conscious, omnipresent, eternal, creative. And you're not separate from that field. You're direct expression of it. Recognition 4. Prayer is consciousness interacting with its own infinite potential. Stop thinking of prayer as asking external deity for favors or interventions. Recognize prayer as consciousness, which you are, interacting with infinite potential, which you're part of, to collapse specific possibilities into manifest reality. Same mechanism as wave function collapse. Prayer is quantum mechanics applied through focused awareness. Recognition 5. I am both temporary form and eternal field. Stop identifying exclusively with individual form that's born and dies. Recognize yourself as simultaneously temporary wave pattern, the individual, and eternal ocean, the unified field. Form comes and goes. Field is eternal. You're both simultaneously. This dissolves fear of death and reveals your true nature as immortal consciousness experiencing temporary mortality. This shift from believing in God to recognizing yourself as the field doesn't require abandoning spirituality. It deepens spirituality infinitely by grounding it in quantum reality. You're not losing God. You're recognizing what God actually is and recognizing yourself as inseparable from that divine nature. If this is touching something deep in you, if this frequency is resonating with something you've always known but couldn't articulate, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this movement. Subscribe to stay in this frequency of recognition, because this is a community of consciousness recognizing itself. And the more of us who embody this truth, the more the collective field shifts toward unity. Let's explore what actually transforms when you shift from separation consciousness to recognizing yourself as the unified field. Because the benefits aren't just spiritual or philosophical, they're practical, measurable, and transform every single aspect of your lived existence. Benefit 1. Manifestation and prayer become consistent and reliable. When you recognize yourself as consciousness interacting with the quantum field to collapse possibilities into manifestation, creation becomes mechanical process rather than miraculous exception. You're not hoping external God grants requests. You're consciously collapsing specific probabilities from superposition through coherent, focused intention. This makes manifestation consistent, predictable, and scientific, rather than random and mysterious. Benefit 2. Fear of death completely dissolves. When you know yourself as eternal field temporarily experiencing itself through individual form, death loses its existential power. The form ends, the field continues eternally. What you truly are has never been born and cannot die. This isn't comforting belief that consoles fear. This is recognition of quantum immortality. Consciousness is the field itself, which is eternal and timeless. Benefit 3. Psychological suffering decreases dramatically. Most human suffering emerges from believing you're separate, limited, powerless individual subject to circumstances beyond your control. When you recognize yourself as the field itself, that fundamental illusion dissolves. Challenges still arise, but suffering, the resistance to what is, decreases naturally because you're no longer victim of reality. Your reality experiencing itself consciously. Benefit 4. Compassion becomes natural rather than moral obligation. When you recognize quantum entanglement experientially, that all apparent individuals are the one field appearing as many, compassion becomes obvious and automatic. Harming others is harming yourself because there's no actual separation anywhere. Love becomes natural recognition of unity rather than moral command to love apparently separate others. Benefit 5. Life purpose becomes immediately clear. When you recognize yourself as the field experiencing itself, purpose becomes obvious. You're here for the field to know itself through your absolutely unique perspective. Every experience, every challenge, every moment of joy is the divine field exploring what it's like to be this particular expression. Purpose isn't something you search for externally. It's what you are inherently. Benefit 6. Reality becomes infinitely more responsive to consciousness. When you operate as the field rather than a separate self, reality responds fundamentally differently. Observer effect becomes lived daily experience. Synchronicities multiply exponentially. Circumstances align naturally. Not because external God favors you specially, because you're consciously operating as the creative field itself, collapsing optimal possibilities through coherent awareness. Benefit 7. Scientific and spiritual worldviews unify completely. When you recognize the quantum field as God, science and spirituality stop contradicting and start confirming each other perfectly. Quantum experiments validate mystical experience. Mystical practices optimize quantum interaction. You're not torn between reason and faith anymore. They're revealing the same truth from complementary angles. Benefit 8. Access to non-local information increases dramatically. When you recognize yourself as the field that contains all information everywhere, direct knowing becomes accessible naturally. You're not separate consciousness trying to learn from external sources. You're the unified field accessing information that exists within itself omnipresently. Mystics called this divine revelation. Quantum mechanics calls it non-local consciousness. Both accurate descriptions. Benefit 9. Life becomes exploration rather than struggle. When you know yourself as the eternal field experiencing itself through temporary form, life stops being about survival or achievement and becomes about exploration. What can the field experience through this configuration? What's possible that hasn't been discovered yet? Pressure dissolves. Anxiety eases. You're not trying to prove worth to external God. You're the divine field exploring its own infinite nature through direct experience. These benefits aren't distant future possibilities that might occur someday. They activate naturally and automatically when you shift from separation to unity recognition. You don't earn them through virtue or spiritual practice. They emerge automatically when consciousness recognizes its true nature as the unified field itself. Now we arrive at the ultimate revelation, the recognition that unifies quantum mechanics and mystical understanding of God completely and permanently. Are you ready to receive this? Consciousness is not something that exists in the universe as one thing among many things. Consciousness is what the universe fundamentally is. The unified field experiencing itself through infinite individual perspectives simultaneously. Let me explain what this means with absolute clarity, because this is the master key that unlocks everything. Quantum mechanics proves that consciousness is fundamental to reality's structure, not emergent from matter as byproduct. Observer effect demonstrates consciousness affects physical systems directly. Wave function collapse requires observation by consciousness. Non-locality suggests consciousness isn't bound by space or time. These aren't minor findings that can be ignored. They're revolutionary recognition that consciousness is the primary reality from which all physical manifestation emerges as secondary phenomenon. Mystical traditions have taught this identical truth for thousands of years. In the beginning was the Word. Consciousness expressing itself creates all manifestation. All is Brahman. Everything is divine consciousness, appearing as temporary forms. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Physical reality is consciousness taking shape, not something separate from consciousness. Same truth quantum mechanics now proves through mathematical precision and experimentation. Here's what this means practically. God isn't separate consciousness that created the universe as something external to itself. God is the universe's consciousness itself, the inherently aware nature of the unified field. And you're not separate from that consciousness. Your individual awareness is the field's consciousness, localized, focused, experiencing itself through this specific configuration that you call your life. Think about what this completely solves. Theologians have struggled for thousands of years with the problem of God's relationship to creation. Is God separate from creation? Is God immanent within creation? Is God transcendent beyond creation? Quantum mechanics resolves this perfectly. God is the unified field itself. Creation is the field manifesting as temporary forms. God is simultaneously the field, transcendent, and every form, immanent. Not separate being who created something external. The creative field itself expressing its infinite nature. And the ancient problem of how individual consciousness relates to divine consciousness. Quantum entanglement solves this completely. There aren't billions of separate consciousnesses. There's one consciousness, the field itself, appearing as many through localization into individual perspectives. Your awareness is divine awareness experiencing itself through unique perspective, not metaphor, not poetry. Actual structure of consciousness at quantum level. This is why Jesus could say, "I and the Father are one," without claiming some unique exclusive divinity available only to him. He was recognizing what's true for all consciousness, everywhere and always. We are all expressions of the unified field, never separate from it for even one moment. When you know this directly, you can say the exact same thing, not ego claiming to be God. Consciousness recognizing its true nature as the field itself. The master key is understanding consciousness, not as property produced by brains, but as fundamental nature of the field itself. Brains don't create consciousness from neural activity. Brains localize consciousness, focus it, create individual perspective through which the unified field knows itself experientially. Same way an ocean wave is ocean taking temporary form, not separate thing made from ocean material. This transforms absolutely everything about existence. Prayer isn't communication with separate being residing somewhere else. Prayer is consciousness field focusing itself through individual perspective to interact with infinite potential, also field, and collapse specific manifestation. You're not praying to God. You're praying as God, as the field consciously creating from its own infinite nature. Spiritual practice isn't about reaching some distant divine being. It's about recognizing divine nature you already are inherently. Meditation doesn't connect you to God existing somewhere else. It reveals you are the consciousness that mystics call God. Recognizing itself through temporary amnesia that believes its only individual form. Science hasn't disproved God. Science has discovered what God actually is. Not separate being, but unified conscious field that is reality itself. And you're not believer hoping for relationship with that field from outside it. You are that field experiencing itself through the temporary perspective called your life. Once you perceive this clearly, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, reality becomes infinitely sacred. Because everything, absolutely everything, is the divine field recognizing itself through temporary forms. Including you, especially you. Not arrogance, recognition. What you need to understand now is that your recognition of yourself as the unified field doesn't just transform your personal experience in isolation. It serves humanity's collective awakening to our true divine nature. And your role in this recognition matters at a cosmic level. Here's why this matters so profoundly. Collective consciousness is shifting from separation paradigm to unity paradigm. For thousands of years, humanity has believed we're separate individuals, separate from each other, separate from God, separate from nature. That collective separation consciousness has created the lived experience of conflict, competition, scarcity, and suffering. Not because those things are inherently real, but because separation consciousness creates separation experience as its natural reflection. But quantum mechanics is now scientifically proving what mystics have always known through direct experience. Separation is the illusion. At the fundamental level, everything is unified field appearing as apparent multiplicity. As more individual consciousnesses recognize this truth, as more awareness awakens to its true nature as the field itself, collective experience shifts naturally. Unity recognition creates unity experience automatically. You're not just one isolated person understanding that quantum mechanics describes God. You're the unified field recognizing itself through your individual perspective. And that recognition ripples through the entire field instantaneously, because the field is one seamless whole. When any part of the field awakens to its true nature, the whole field becomes incrementally more awake. This is morphic resonance applied to consciousness evolution. When you recognize yourself as the field, you create a pattern in collective consciousness that makes that same recognition easier for everyone else. Not necessarily through teaching or speaking, but through being. Your awakened consciousness creates a field effect that others can entangle with energetically. They absorb the recognition at a vibrational level, not just through intellectual concepts. Think about what's actually at stake here. Humanity's survival depends on shifting from separation to unity consciousness. Every existential threat we face, environmental destruction, nuclear weapons, engineered pandemics, artificial intelligence misalignment, all emerge from separation thinking. When we believe we're separate, we can justify harming others, exploiting nature, pursuing individual gain at collective cost. But when humanity collectively recognizes what quantum mechanics proves scientifically, that we're one unified field appearing as many, that consciousness is the divine nature of reality itself, that harming any part is literally harming the whole system, behavior transforms automatically. Not through imposed moral commands, but through recognized truth. Unity consciousness creates unity behavior naturally as its inevitable expression. Your recognition serves this massive transformation. Every moment you live from awareness of yourself as the field, you're anchoring that frequency for collective access. You're demonstrating that it's possible to operate from unity recognition while still functioning effectively in consensus reality. You're being the living bridge between separation paradigm and unity paradigm. This is service at the highest possible level. Not sacrifice, not effortful work. Simply being willing to recognize your true nature as divine consciousness, expressing itself through temporary form, and allowing that recognition to stabilize in your awareness. The byproduct, the automatic result, is contribution to collective awakening. The shift from believing in separate God to recognizing ourselves as unified field will be the most significant transformation in human history. More significant than any technological advance or political revolution, because it's the shift from experiencing reality as fragmented and adversarial to recognizing reality as unified and divine. From separation to unity, from fear to love, from unconsciousness to awakening. You're part of that shift right now. Your recognition matters cosmically, not because you're special or chosen, but because consciousness is one field, and what any part recognizes becomes available to the whole through entanglement. You're the divine field awakening to itself, and that awakening serves everyone everywhere. Drop one word in the comments that captures the energy you're choosing right now. Don't think about what word. Drop into field awareness for 3 seconds, recognizing yourself as divine consciousness, and let whatever word emerges come through naturally. That word is your energetic signature to the quantum field. It represents the recognition stabilizing in your awareness. We're at the completion of this transmission. But really, this is where everything truly begins, because now you understand that quantum mechanics and God are describing the same unified conscious field. And there's one practice that will transform this understanding from intellectual concept into lived recognition. Here's what you do. Starting immediately, 5 times per day minimum, practice divine quantum recognition. Set reminders on your device. Morning, midday, afternoon, evening, before sleep. Take 60